So let's talk about Sam Bankman Fried. Sam Bankman Fried is essentially the ex or former CEO boss of FTX and Alameda Research. What is FTX and why is it pertinent? FTX is a centralized crypto trading exchange platform. It's an app you can put on your phone where people could go and buy, sell, trade crypto, and do all of those types of things. Well, I'll put a link in the description and above of a video I did where I describe how FTX and Sam Bankman Fried got into all of this nonsense and these criminal charges. But in today's video, we're going to talk about hey, the sealed indictment, what's on the indictment. It'll probably be released by the time you see this video. We're going to talk about the charges that are likely on that indictment and what the government needs to prove in order to find Sam Bankman Fried guilty of those particular charges. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Let's dive in. Let's get it. Yo, what's good? I'm Marcus. You're at the channel The Debt Free Dad, where we're talking finances, financial education, literacy, attorney reactions, and we're also documenting my family's journey to financial freedom as we are looking to become first generation millionaires. I always got to give a disclaimer. I am a licensed attorney, licensed in several places, but none of those places amounts to me being your attorney. So if you're looking for legal or financial advice, go find a professional in your area. Sam Bankman Fried. Okay, first of all, this dude, like, his hair is crazy. It's like he brushed it with a balloon, but that just bothers me in and of itself. But he has been arrested in the Bahamas. Why the hell was he in the Bahamas? Well, Sam Bankman Fried structured a lot. Well, Sam Bankman Fried structured his business entity in the Bahamas because the Bahamas has some securities laws that are a little more relaxed than the United States. So it allowed him the ability and flexibility to defraud his customers and steal money without as much scrutiny he would have gotten had he would have established his business entities within the United States. So he has been arrested in the Bahamas. So there was an unsealed indictment. What the hell is an indictment? Well, let's just talk about the process. The government conducts an investigation because they have reasonable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. Once they go through and start doing their investigation, they build up things like probable cause to maybe execute search warrants and all of these other things. But essentially, the government gathers all of their information. They present it to the grand jury. The grand jury is a group of citizens who just sits and convenes and hears the evidence that's presented by the government and make a determination if it's a true bill or no bill. If it's a true bill, that means that the government has enough information to actually formally charge this individual with a crime. So according to all open source research, it was a sealed indictment. So we don't know what's on it yet, but you might know what's on it by the time you see this video. But I'm going to take a stab at what I think is likely going to be on this indictment. Now, I've been in this game over a decade. I've been in the criminal law arena for over a decade since I started my legal career. From the defense side to the prosecution side to the investigation side, I represented Ponzi scheme guys and all of that. So I think I got a reasonable guess of some of the things that we're going to see on this indictment. The first thing that I think unequivocally is going to be on this indictment is a charge for wire fraud. Now, you probably hear it all the time, mail and wire fraud. What the hell is wire fraud? Wire fraud is essentially a fraud that's committed using some type of electronic telecommunications or the internet. It could be phone, it could be fax, it could be you're shooting something across the internet. And it has to be in interstate commerce. What is interstate commerce? It's going across state lines. Once you have those things satisfied, you're looking at a wire fraud charge. So there's a strong possibility that a wire fraud charge is in fact going to be on this indictment once it's unsealed. Now, let's take a look and find out what exactly are the elements that the government has to prove to find an individual guilty of wire fraud. And I had to take a look at my notes because I didn't want to miss any. But first, the government has to prove that the defendant was part of a scheme to defraud another person, such as by obtaining money or something else of value through false pretenses. The second thing, the defendant acting knowingly or with intent to defraud. The third thing, the defendant made false representations that were material to the scheme to defraud. And fourth, the defendant transmitted a material misrepresentation by wire, radio, or television communication in interstate or foreign commerce. Those those are essentially all of the elements that the government has to prove in order to find Sam Bankman Fried guilty of wire fraud. Now, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about it the later the video, what particular point in these charges that his attorney is going to attack. Is really not that many points just based off of the early information that I see, but I am going to talk about it. The second charge that's going to be in that indictment is conspiracy to commit wire fraud. So now you have to ask yourself, well, what exactly is a criminal conspiracy? In order for the government to prove that an individual conspired to commit a crime, there has to be four things. First, the presence of an agreement. This is the first element for a conspiracy. You have to have an agreement that something ill is about to go down. Membership in the agreement, intent to participate in the overt act. Now, when you're talking about conspiracy, what I've seen most in my experience, the thing that always hinges on the facts and everybody always challenges is the overt act. And I guess the prime example, law school example that people use is if me and two of my good friends were in the basement and we were talking about like, man, let's go ahead and we're going to heist this armored car, or we're going to rob this bank, or whatever the hell the crime happens to be. We could sit there and plan and all of that stuff and make this agreement and all agree to participate, but we aren't guilty of a conspiracy until we commit an overt act. A lot of times that overt act is doing something in the furtherance of the actual crime. So if I go out and buy 4 Richard Nixon masks for me and my boys and, start downloading the blueprints, hey, now I've really made an overt act towards the commission of the crime. So wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud are definitely two things that are going to be on this indictment. I feel fairly confident. If it's not, I'd be shocked, but he's essentially going to have the Bernie Madoff blueprint when we're looking at what he's being charged with. The next thing that is likely to be on this indictment once it's unsealed is going to be securities fraud. Now, the official definition of securities fraud is illegal activity, all of which involves the deception of investors or the manipulation of financial markets. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what the hell is a security? Like, I don't understand what a security is. Think of a security as a tradable asset that's used to raise capital in public financial markets. Now, there's 3 types of securities. The first type of security is an equity security that provides some type of ownership. The other type of security is a debt security where you hold the debt and there's some type of payments that are being received. The third type of security is a hybrid that combines some aspects of debt and equity. So those are some of the charges that are likely to be on this indictment once it's unsealed. Y'all will probably find out today when I release this video. But now let's talk about what his likely argument is going to be from a defense standpoint. From a defense standpoint, I'm going to just be honest with y'all. This dude don't really have a lot of options at his disposal. Most times when your person is charged with a crime, the first thing they always want to do is have an affirmative defense. For example, if a person is charged with murder, you say, no, it wasn't murder. It was self-defense because I had to guard my life. So you kind of go down, hey, do you have an affirmative defense? If you don't have an actual affirmative defense to make, now you have to look at the elements of each of those crimes that we talked about and see which one of these elements can we argue and potentially disprove in front of a jury. The only element here that's even going to be worth arguing is the intent aspect. With criminal charges, with crimes, you have to have a requisite criminal intent. And it looks like Sam Bankman Fried plans to play the I was dumb card and I didn't know what I was doing. From open source research, it looks like he's actually going to throw his ex-girlfriend under the bus and assert that a lot of the transactions and monetary moves that occur were because of her. And this is a common thing. Anytime when things break down in a criminal organization, this is all you get. You get fingers pointing, everybody pointing every which way, and that is what's going on here. So he is going to make his argument solely based on the intent that he didn't know what he was doing. He was playing dumb. he didn't intend to defraud these people. I was just saying, it's not a crime to be a trash CEO, so that is likely going to be his argument. Now, what are my thoughts on this that hard argument? Now, what are my thoughts on if that argument is going to hold up? Like, really? Come on now. Like, I think this is patently obvious. I think it is patently obvious just from the early evidence that we got. Now, again, I'm not going to make a final decision because I don't know what evidence is out there. But right now, being objective is not looking good for SBF. He's about to get fried. So that is going to be his only argument, is to challenge the intent, that he didn't have the intent. Therefore, he, couldn't be guilty of these crimes because, he didn't intend to defraud people. He was just a trash CEO who didn't know what he was doing and was in over his head. Now, let's talk about this from a sentencing standpoint. When you start talking about these charges, big prison sentences get thrown down for these type of charges. Let's think about it. Bernie Madoff had over a $65 billion Ponzi scheme, and he received 150 years in prison. So bottom line, it's a very strong likelihood that Sam Bankman Fried is not going to see the light of day when this is all said and done. I'm going to keep my eye on this case to just kind of track it up to date, what's going on with the information in this case. But it's really interesting. I'm also going to break down a civil lawsuit that's being filed against a bunch of celebrities who have, participated in marketing FTX before this entire thing went belly up. Steph Curry was thrown in this litigation. Tom Brady, his ex-wife, Mark Cuban, the Phoenix Suns. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot to come out of this case. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I think as a whole, the government was really waiting for something like this to happen because crypto is just an unregulated market, is the wild, wild west. And you need a big triggering event to force people to want to have some type of regulation to protect their interests. Now, I know a lot of guys out there, a lot of crypto bros out there like, oh, regulation is bad. We want to keep everything uncentralized, no government. But you got to look at it from both standpoints. I think with regulation, a lot of these trash coins, these altcoins are just going to disappear and vanish. But I do think regulations will make everyday investors who may not be comfortable or may not be really knowledgeable with cryptocurrency, it may make them comfortable to dive in knowing that there is some regulation there to protect their interests if something like this were to happen again. So let's see what's coming down the pike. Yo, if you enjoyed this video, check out the video on the screen. There's going to be more content related to finance.